Cool. So, hi, welcome to Editorial Flexibility Without the Pain. So, my name is Damien McKenna. I'm a lead Drupal architect at Media Current. I have a somewhat old user ID on Drupal.org. I've been using Drupal since 2008, mostly. I first started using it in 2007. Didn't think too much of it at the time. Felt it was a lot of work for smaller sites. But then I actually got a job using it day to day and started to understand its flexibility and the benefits of using it. So these days I work with Media Current, hence the logo, and we build a whole bunch of different sites for a variety of clients. Some of which might be mentioned in here. But one thing I wanted to, or whole focus of this is we keep coming across RFCs or requests for projects and things where clients want to be able to do lots of different things. To a degree, almost many times, they want to have the flexibility of Dreamweaver to hack up their pages whatever way they want, but they don't want it to be Dreamweaver because they want all of the other stuff that you get with a modern CMS. So they want to be able to select from pre-existing layouts. They want to customize each individual thing that's on the page. They want to add new CSS and JavaScript without having to fiddle with the code base itself. So I kind of call it a Dear Santa list. I want the moon and the stars. So one of the things that was built for Drupal along the way is kind of a bit of a magic trick compared to what was available before, a thing called Panelizer, where you have this nice interface with all these blocks that are on your page, and you can drag and drop different things from different areas. This is an example display for a node page. I forget what site that is, but it's there's a product logo at the top, and then a preface field, and a field called blue colored link, another one called the green colored link, and so on. All in this region called top, and then underneath there's a left region and a right region, and all of these pieces are individual blocks, more or less, and they can be repositioned. And Panels works with all of Drupal's things, nodes and content types, taxonomy term pages, so all of the category system, user pages, and lots more. And you can also customize them differently for what you might consider sub-things, like individual content types can be displayed differently, individual vocabulary, terms for individual vocabularies can be done differently. You can get in further and filter it even to more fine-tuned levels. So if you are, say, an editor logging in, you might see a product page differently than a regular visitor. Or you can change things based on fields, and lots of flexibility there. You can even build custom pages that have nothing to do with the normal nodes and taxonomy terms and other stuff. And then you can have all these different types of layouts. So you can have, say, a builder that gives you complete control, and you can drag and resize the different columns and add rows and nested columns and nested rows. Or you can start off with something that's predefined, like this 3-column stack thing that will have a bar or a region at the top, a region at the bottom, and then 3 evenly spaced columns in the middle. There's also a really neat thing called the in-place editor, where normally when you're fiddling with the display, you see this. It's kind of just a placeholder for what the content will be on the page. But the in-place editor gives you a preview of what that block actually looks like on a given page. This is particularly useful for the custom pages, where you can see kind of live what different content lists and things will look like. And then you can drag and drop blocks from one region to another. So in this example, I moved the demo items from the right column into the center column, and now it's taking the focus of the page. It's also very stable and can be worked with features, so you can export everything into code and keep track of what changes people are making over time. Or if you want to, you can use hooks and do it directly yourself in code. And there's just a huge amount of flexibility and configurability available in it. And lots of things with permissions, so you can control stuff, and lots of integration with other modules and stuff, but that doesn't work for a lot of people. It's, as you can see, it's a little difficult to get in and start doing stuff. So it's not really suitable for a non-technical user who just wants to write their blog post or write their product description. And it's very difficult to, say, change for one particular page where you need to add this glitzy thing in the corner, or having a special in this one product this 1 week, and we need to change this. It gets difficult at that level. But there are often times when you need that level of control, where, say, you want to control the individual, one individual page, so this one product looks different, or a small group of pages. Or say this, you've got user pages for all of the staff, but the CEO's page has to be a little different. Or say you're doing a special event and you want to highlight something on it, or a special sale. There's a thing I showed where you could have different displays for different content types. You can extend that and then, say, have a different page for, say, in this case it's television shows and stuff. So a different page for Babylon 5, a different page for Firefly, different page for the Avengers. But you start running into problems. It gets cumbersome to deal with all of these. So I'd like to show you a module called Panelizer that kind of the goal is to do away with some of the complexity. So Panelizer is built upon kind of the guts of panels. So it can work with Drupal's things, and more to the point, the sub-things, the content types, the vocabularies. It can also work with view modes, or it works with view modes. So you can customize a teaser display, and it allows you to have multiple displays, which I'll show in a minute. That's personally think one of its best options. And each default can be controlled individually. So it'll work with any Drupal thing. This is the settings page for content type, where you start off and say, panelize this content type, and then it gives you options for each view mode. So each one can be controlled individually. And when you turn on the view mode, and you go to the Panelizer tab that will show up, you then have a separate page where you can customize each view mode. So your full page override is what it calls the normal full page display, and then a teaser as well. One of the cool things is you can have different displays for each thing. So each content type for the full page display, the full node page, can have different options. So in this case, I've got the default. Then I've got an editor favorite that they can customize and have, a special display in different fields and maybe some extra descriptions and stuff. And then a promo article. And then a pop-up. Here's my mouse. Excuse me a second. And each one of these, you can control the block layout, you can control the block positioning, the layout it's using. So one, say the promo article may have 3 columns. The default may only have 2. And all of the options within there can be customized. And the nicest thing, I think, though, is you can hide all of that complexity by building your displays up front, and then the editor, when they're the content person, when they're going through to create their content on a node page, for example, all they see is a list of options here. This is creating an article. And you've got a title field, body field, whatever fields are needed. And then down at the bottom, you'll have just a simple selector to say, display is going to be used for this page. And then, so for example, you can have your default display might be just showing the top image from the article and then all of the text. You might have a custom display that shows say the top article at the top, and then lists of other articles, say off of a node reference or a reference field. But this could be the exact same content type, but just by changing one of the options here, you can completely change how the page looks. And as mentioned, it works with all of the view modes, so let me hide that. Where's my mouse pointer? Right. Boom. So you can have a different teaser. So anytime you've got a content list, you could have a promo teaser versus the default teaser. And one thing that we added this year was you can control what the default is for each view mode. So say, for example, you're building a standard Drupal install for multiple sites, where they all need to have out of the box the same functionality, the same display. Say for a family of sites, you can build a default display that all of the sites have available as normal. Then each site can, say, create their special version of, say, an article page. And then you can go through and set what each site is going to use by default. So when they go to the node add page, that one is automatically picked. So then the use case for, well, this one page, 90% or even 98% of the content is covered by all of that, but occasionally you want to change one thing on a page. So each item that's managed by Panelizer will have a Panelizer tab. And you go in there, that's where all the fun stuff is. That gives you a list of each of the view modes that's managed, and you can go through and click on any of these links to change the content list. So say for a basic page, we've got just a body at the top and then a list of links. We could say on this one page, set up multiple columns, have the comments on the right-hand side, have the body text on the left. And then, as well as that, because there is that amount of flexibility, that's the more on the admin side versus the per node or whatever side, there's a set of permissions to control who has access to the different options. You can limit, come back here a second. You can limit who has access to these selectors. So you might have, say, your normal, say, a regular site visitor who's submitting, say, an event. You've got a community site and people are able to post events. You may not want a regular or an average person to be able to, say, have a promotional event. So you'd limit the ability to choose which display is being used to, say, editorial staff rather than just normal users. You can also have permission to control who has access to go in there and change all of their stuff. Again, you might limit that to only, say, senior staff or people who have been specifically trained in how to do this without breaking the site. Go back again. And everything, all of the default displays are all exportable. So you can bundle everything up in features, have everything in code, and keep help keep the site controlled and keep track of what changes are being made. And it also works with content revisions. So you can, well, with a slight disclaimer of by version 3.2, this will be fully bug-free. I still need to do a little further testing and fixing with it. But so the idea is you can create multiple, you can go through and have a full editorial process of creating drafts, having a review process before something is finally published. And not only will the content changes work through that process, but any changes you make in Panelizer itself can be managed through that. That will be out fairly soon. 3.2. The dev version is quite stable at the moment, but I just need to do another round of testing with it. So the final last thing is, one of the original requests that we came across was, well, I want to be able to control CSS. On this one page, we need to paste in the CSS that our designer or our art staff person came up with. So there's another module that kind of can work well with this called code per node. It gives you an option of having just a simple text field on your nodes where you can paste in CSS. In this case, text decoration blink because I'm crazy. So on this one page, we really had to have large text that was purple and blinking. I don't have a GIF of this because the blink option didn't work in Safari. I think that's a feature. But you can see black. It's large purple text instead of this smaller black text. And then the code per node has a bunch of options you can go with it. You can set up a default for each content type. So say you're doing a promo this one week, and instead of going in and customizing your theme, you might want to just add a couple of lines of CSS on a particular content type just for that week, and you can go in and set that and then delete it at the end of the week. You can select which view modes it affects. So you can set it to affect the full page or the teaser or maybe even search results. There's also syntax highlighting. You might not have noticed that, but it's not just a bare text box with black text. There's some syntax highlighting to help you, well, to a degree it helps you make sure that you're not adding mistakes, because if the coloring was kind of off and you discovered multiple rows of the text there were purple or oddly colored, it might indicate that there's a syntax bug. You're missing it. Not yet. I'm hoping to eventually add it, but it doesn't right now. There's also support for tokens. Where this can be useful is you could say have a token in here. You could have, say, in your CSS, a background setting that pulls in a different image depending on the content type. So you upload your JPEG or whatever it is, PNG file, and you can put in a token. So I think I have an example here in a second. No, I'm sorry. But you can put in a token to say have the node type, or even just the node ID if you need to get to that level. So you can also individual blocks. It's just mentioned it's unrelated to panels and Panelizer. It just kind of can work well with it. But so on the block system, you can go in and add extra CSS for specific blocks that you need to have on the page. And again, it has this whole set of permissions to go with it. So you can say limit it to people who have been trained, not just give it to all staff members. One thing that, and then there's also an option to add CSS that affects the entire site. There's actually on the settings page where this is, there's a warning. You really shouldn't be doing this because global CSS changes really should be in your theme. But there can be occasions when, just for a few hours we want to have the text blink or everything in huge text and purple. And the idea is it's a short-term thing. So you have to accept responsibility for this change. Originally I had the text field say, I solemnly swear I'm up to no good. But I didn't think too many people get the joke. So when you really, really, really need to, you can go in and do that. Again, this page is locked away by another permission, so you can give people access to change the stuff for individual nodes without them ever knowing this exists. That's a good thing. And I really shouldn't say this because there may be trouble ahead, but you can do JavaScript this way as well. All of the options available for CSS are also available for JavaScript. And beautifully. So the square brackets with the node, the colon, and then NID, that will display an alert box when this page is loaded that says, hello node, and then the node ID with 3 exclamation points. And then, yes, more warnings. You can do that per content type. And even more warnings, you can add global JavaScript if you are so just really looking to break your site and upset your visitors. But on those rare, limited, very short-term things, scenarios, it's there. And again, more permissions control this too. But we need to disclaim that you can really, really, really cause major problems on a site by fiddling with JavaScript live on air. No. I recommend using the Paranoid module to stop that being turned on. Yeah. Feel free. You can do that out of the box anyway, just adding enabling the PHP module, adding a text field that has the PHP filter terminology. Yeah, you really shouldn't, but so this fills in the need for when people want to do the CSS and the JavaScript, and you trust them to not break their own site. So yes, search in general really warns against it. So beware. So the Panelizer project is there. At the moment we have 3.1 out. It's pretty stable. There are a couple of issues with it, especially if you're using revisioning. The dev version is, as I was mentioning earlier on, fairly stable at this point, but I need to do a bit more work before I release 3.2. If you'd like to try it out, there's this whole turnkey distribution that somebody put together called Panoply that has a whole bunch of really neat things in it. It's really heavy on panels-based modules, like one called fieldable panel panes that replaces blocks. So you can have an equivalent of a block with additional fields. So you can create a block that you can add anywhere on the site and be able to, say, upload an image into it or anything else. And then Code per Node has the short project name CPN, and we had a stable release of that fairly recently, and it works pretty reliably. It does not have revision support yet. That's something once I get through Panelizer and a few other that's on the list to do, because it really makes sense to be able to have those kind of tech or display changes managed through revisions. It'll be later this year. It's September. It may be next year. But feel free to look those up. Any questions? Ted.
But in the use case where you only have the default display of different editor, an article say I want to, where they're really just going off I've been in the past, and I think about, okay, do I want to install the panel or make a field that has a value, and then panel variation, say, put this one, seems like just in that use case where you're not customizing panel, seems like what I was describing a lot less seems more less brittle. Do you have anything on that?
I guess one of the main benefits of Panelizer is when there is the potential for needing to change the default on the fly for a particular thing. Then each display, when you go into customize it, it starts off with just the bare the items that were on that default. So you're not confusing somebody by saying have a whole bunch of different fields that are controlled by visibility rules. So if a field, whatever, is one value, show this field, otherwise not. So it can simplify that process. And it also works with content revisions so that, well, more or less, that they can, I guess, more easily see as they're going from revision to revision what it looks like.
Well, I wouldn't try to solve it.
Doing away or not needing to fiddle with the visibility rules was a big reason why I use it. That functionality is still very brittle in panels. Field and lots of different for each pane.
Yeah, I guess what I was talking about was like I have what I've done in the past.
Oh, variants. Okay.
The whole thing.
Okay.
In the article, on the article.
Yeah. Okay.
It was mostly just
Yeah. Yeah. And then I feel that if you end up with the scenario where, yes, that you are going to be able to want to change the display of one page, whether it's a content type, a node, a term, or a user, or one of the other supported entities, you might as well have all of the entity display managed the same way. So in for penny, in for pound, as the saying goes. I guess that saying is more of a European thing, where they used pounds as a currency and pennies. But anyway, I'm showing my heritage. So, good question though. Any other questions? So I guess thank you very much. And yes, I'll find the off button. Code per node, it was one of those things that, yes, a client needed to be able to do that. And on my own personal blog, I felt I didn't want to deal with the hassle of creating a sub-theme, so just use that to add like 2 lines of CSS for one content type. And that was ultimately why I joined as co-maintainer, to maintain it, but I wanted it for my own blog. But yeah, it's one of those things of that kind of stuff should be done in the theme, but for those occasions when rather being lazy, or it's somebody who's trusted to not screw up the site, and preferably as well for short-term things that they can just go in and paste in a small bit of CSS. It works relatively well.